Welcome back to AM2R. Last time we, well, almost died for one thing, and then went and explored a completely meaningless optional side area with absolutely no implications or references to the future at all. And this time around, we're heading off to the final main area of the game. Well, sort of. There's been sort of a gameplay loop that's been going on up to this point where the general pattern is get to a new area, kill all the Metroids, go back to the main tunnels, find the next main area, and so on and so forth. This is the last area that falls into that pattern. And coming up here, we can see that, well, this is why we actually needed to get power bombs. Except, not at all, because if you come over here, you can't see the block, but there's a hidden super missile block down there that, you know, if you're like a low percent speedrunner, basically, that's the only reason you would know that was there. Otherwise, you would probably assume you needed power bombs to actually get anywhere, and you would be sort of correct. But as I was saying before, this area coming up is the last place that actually follows that same pattern of go to new area, find all Metroids. And it looks like we can't go through this water down here, and I'm not brave enough to go venturing forth to actually show you what that thing looks like in full. Not that it's terribly impressive. So, I bring this up for a very specific reason. This area that we're heading to was not in the original game. This area is completely original and new to this game and this game alone. In the original Metroid 2, the last major area was, well, the tower section with a whole bunch of beam upgrades for you to grab and Metroids to find and all that jazz, and everything else from here on out was pretty much just confined to different stretches of the tunnels. And clearly, with this game at least, with the pacing it gives out, power-ups and all that, having that be the final area just wouldn't really make a ton of sense, and clearly Doc and all the rest of his crew agreed with that too, because they just went ahead and made another area. And if I'm gonna be honest here, it's one of my favorites. Probably partially because it's brand new and does a bunch of original things not constrained to the original game at all. And we're gonna see that pretty soon, actually. Of course, another big reason why I probably like this place so much is the music. This is an original composition created by Torbjorn Brandrud. I may have mentioned his name in the first video, but I'm pretty sure I horribly mispronounced it back then. I tried looking up how to pronounce it, but I'm pretty sure I misinterpreted something in that, and so I just screwed it up back then, but that's enough dwelling on that. We've got these guys to talk about. They're dangerous. Shoot them, touch them, pretty much do anything to them, and they will short out more or less, and then explode very suddenly. They're extremely dangerous because the bullets that they fire, they don't give you iframes. They can juggle you and do a lot of damage very, very quickly, so you really, really want to be cautious around them. If you get hit by just a couple, that's fine, but you want to try and avoid it as much as possible because they do like 30 damage a shot or something. But if you get, like, juggled, you're gonna be in for some bad shit. And the other thing is that the bullets that they fire can actually cause other ones of them around to go off as well. So if you set off one of them, chances are you're gonna have a huge chain reaction and probably possibly take a lot of damage and maybe even die. Who knows? But all that being said, got something here. The distribution center comes to life. This track is called Ancient Power. It's also composed by Torbjorn Brandrud. It's one of my favorite songs in the entire game. I'm just gonna leave it at that because, my god, it's so perfect for this place. I would shut up and let you guys listen to it, but it takes a little bit to get to the really good parts, so there's that. And now we have a new mechanic introduced. These are essentially batteries or power cells or what have you. And if you shoot them, they send out this giant electric field that'll disable any machinery around you. And it'll also disable your arm cannon if you yourself get caught in a blast. So that's something to keep in mind. And because it shuts down any, like, robot enemies in the area, it means it's the safest way of dealing with those exploding things we've seen so far. And yeah, I'm not sure what to call them, receptacles? Sure, we'll go with that. For the power cells, may look a little bit familiar. We'll get to that. Right now we have a Zeta to deal with. So this Zeta is probably the hardest one in the entire game. It's also the last one you face, if I'm recalling correctly. Yeah, this is the last Zeta we ever face. The reasons why it sucks is that, unlike the Zetas in the tower area, this arena, I mean, it is built around it, but the Zeta's AI is a little wonky, in my opinion, and I never really noticed the ones in the tower ever dashing into you when you were up against the wall, and even if they did, you do have a safe spot from that and from their acid breath in the alcove where you came into the room from. Here, not so much. And on top of that, you've got to deal with this thing's claw swipes, activating the power cells and disabling your arm cannon at inopportune times. So this fight can get a little dicey pretty quickly. This fight's always felt a little awkward to me, and I think that's more a thing of this. I haven't really brought this up much because it hasn't seemed terribly important up until now, but there are aspects of the late game of AM2R that I think are a little bit unpolished, and it's completely understandable why that is, because the game was taken down before that polish could truly be applied en masse and really make the late game super duper great and polished and wonderful. And that's not to say that I think the end game is bad or poorly designed, no. I just think there's a little bit like the stuff we saw with that Zeta where things just aren't quite as smooth as they would be in a, in a perfect world. Which is unfortunate, but again, I think it's understandable why that is. By the way, you guys remember these guys from the Robot Factory, right? Well, they're back and they suck even more. My honest-to-God tip for this area is you see robots, you lay powerbomb, you watch as things die, because working around these guys is a huge pain. Like, massive pain. It's much easier to just lay a powerbomb, forget that they exist, and watch as, well, their existence vanishes. And this room looks pretty dangerous at first glance until you, well, unless you know quite how the power cells work for disabling these guys, because you can still deactivate them when they're in the middle of exploding, which is pretty dang nice. Yeah, thankfully after all that we have a save point, because, I don't know if you noticed, we were pretty close to dying. Not the best situation. And now this room. Honest to God, one of my favorite rooms in the game. It is a perfectly natural conclusion to the shit we have seen before with multiple Metroids in the same room. Just throw 5 fucking alphas at you in one room. They're alphas, so they're not exactly giant threats to you. I mean, they do a fair bit of damage for this point in the game, yes, but they're alphas. They're not exactly difficult to hit or kill. I don't know, I just really enjoyed this room for just how absurdly cluttered it is. I don't know, it's chaotic and messy, and it's very much a case of quantity over quality. At least as far as threat level goes. But I don't know, it just feels like a natural extension of the, okay, we've thrown 2 Metroids at you, now what? Ah, yes, 5. That's the perfect number. It's just so stupid, I love it. And with that, we only have 2 more Metroids in this entire place to take care of. But just because we're close to done with the Metroids doesn't mean this area is anywhere near completion. Trust me, there is a lot more to this place than just killing the Metroids. So, we have a little bit of a gauntlet here. This is not quite a puzzle room. What's the best way to put it? This is an escort mission, basically, where we have to escort a energy cell to the bottom of this room, and it's a bit of a long one. And keep in mind, if you shoot it with your beam, it'll just explode and you'll have to go all the way back up. But, I mean, at least then the enemies will be gone. I also haven't really talked about moving the energy cells at all, which is kind of important. The only thing that they actually get destroyed by, as far as your weaponry is concerned, is your normal beam. Bombs, and even like missiles and stuff, will just bounce it around. The blast from that will happen. I don't believe power bombs affect them at all, so there is that, but you also can't use them for moving it around, which I guess makes sense because they're not really a focused explosion in any way. It wouldn't exactly be easy to control them in that way, but hey. And based on what we're seeing here, for starters, Infinite Terror, you might be able to guess what we're coming up on. And it's been a long time coming. Trust me. I'm very excited to finally get to this. At last, the screw attack. Nothing poses a threat to us anymore. Normal enemies are complete jokes. The exploding robots that were giving us so much trouble earlier just melt when we touch them now. Nothing is a threat to us. Everything is good. Everything is great. We are Samus. We are badass. We are unstoppable. Let's fucking go. And with that, we're actually pretty much done for this part. Next time on AM2R, we're going to continue exploring the distribution center. Believe it or not, there's a lot more powerful we have yet to become. See you guys then.